I'd like to call the meeting to order, please. I need a motion to reconvene for open session. I have Eric with first and Beth with the second. Eric and Beth. Okay, so we can just do a show of hands. All in favor? Very good. It was Eric. Okay, so open session is now open. How about that? Okay, would you stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome. We want to welcome you to our meeting this evening. We appreciate your attendance and your interest in your school district. Tonight we have a few recognitions that we would like, special recognitions that we would like to share with you. We'll start with the junior high. Mr. Heath?
Okay, some good news from the junior high. Our jazz band recently went down to Southeast and under the direction of Tim Dieter received an excellent rating at the SEMO Jazz Festival, with Claire Mao being recognized as an outstanding soloist. Congratulations to both our 7th grade boys and 7th grade girls basketball teams on being named conference champions this year. The boys team was coached by Derek Emily and the girls by Sarah Bringer. And last but not least, congratulations to an 8th grade student, Caitlin Canada, for being chosen as a 2016 Senate Exhibit winner. Missouri Senators chose 34 individuals across the state to represent their districts. Artwork will be displayed throughout 2016 at the state capitol and open to all for visitation. Caitlin and her teacher, Ms. Smelzer, down at the junior high, will be recognized for their hard work on Fine Arts Education Day in Jefferson City on Thursday, March 31st, as well as at the MAEA Spring Conference Awards reception in St. Louis this April 8th.
Thank you. Dr. Kathy Freeman wants to share some things with us about the Jazz Ensemble and the project Lead the Way.
So our high school jazz ensemble received a Superior 1 rating at the MU Rockbridge Jazz Festival last weekend. They received straight 1 ratings from all 3 judges, and we're very proud of them. And then also this evening, right outside the doors in the display case is some work from our Project Lead the Way classes that we would love for everyone to take a look at. The work is from our high school students in our Project Lead the Way courses of engineering. They're in Introduction to Engineering and Design or Principles of Engineering, and they're also in Computer Software Engineering. And a special thank you to the Hillsboro R3 School Board and the administration for making these course offerings possible for our students. And we also have a short video prepared about the Project Lead the Way program. And if we want to play that now with your permission, that'd be fine. Otherwise, Mrs. Dix signed up to do that under sign-ups. We weren't sure which was more appropriate.
Well, so if she wants to talk about it, you want to wait for that then? Would that, that's it?
It's up to you guys. She's completely fine with me.
Okay, so let's wait on the video.
Sure,
for just
that
a
sounds
moment.
fine.
So we'll look forward to seeing that. So congratulations to the jazz band and this Project Lead the Way program. We also have some wrestlers that qualified for state. So Mr. Marino?
Yes, ma'am. This past weekend, wrestlers finished up their season in Columbia, Missouri, the state wrestling competition. We took 5 young men up there, 4 sophomores and 1 senior. Our sophomores were Jordan Sanders, Quentin Smith, Dylan Owens, and Nick Short. And then our senior was Cole Meador. None of them made it to the medal round, but they fought hard, they competed well, and they represented Hillsboro well at the state meet this past weekend.
That's pretty awesome for those kids. Okay. We'll move to our visitors this evening. We have a few, 4, I believe, that would like to come forward. Mr. Jim Ward, then we have Jennifer Richard and Kevin Blair, Sarah Saharsky, and Angie Oshie. So let me just give you a little bit of information before we have you come up and present to the board. You will be allowed 3 minutes to address the board. Please limit your comments to topics that are appropriate to bring before the board. It's possible that the board president may interrupt you if your comments stray into an area that should not be discussed in open session. The Missouri Sunshine Law limits the ability of board members to respond to your comments. So consequently, it is unlikely that the board will engage in a discussion of your topic during this meeting. Okay? We'll start with Jim Ward, if you'd like to come to the front. Wants to discuss board policy, is that correct?
Yes, I do, and I brought gifts, if I may. I was just going to leave them with your board secretary for distribution.
Thank you.
This evening, and my name is Jim Ward, I'm with the Missouri NEA, and I just wanted to say a few brief comments about something you may or may not have seen in bulletins from the Missouri School Boards Association, and that would be policies HH. There's a couple of them, and they are designed to give school boards the option of electing a policy by which the teacher groups then could elect a representative group for the negotiations that go on. So you've got several ESP groups here, secretaries, nurses, the paras, and the state statutes cover how they elect their representative. They file a showing of interest with cards, and if they get enough interest, then it goes, the State Board of Mediation sort of oversees those election processes. And once those elections are done, and a representative is chosen, that more or less stands until somebody were to say, well, we'd like to decertify that group and perhaps have another one. But teachers are kind of a gray area. There's no statute that covers how that election goes. But boards do have the latitude to adopt a policy. So in that packet that I brought this evening, I put a couple of samples in there. One is directly from the Missouri School Boards Association, and that's the one that would allow for the election of an exclusive representative. There's another one that's not quite as streamlined as that, because you have to have an election first to see if you want to have an election, and then once you have the election, or, to say, okay, we want an election, then you have essentially what's in the policy that I presented there to you tonight. So I don't mean to talk down or anything, but some of you are new to the board, so you may not have seen or been aware of something that. So I'm just here tonight to sort of plant a seed, because we have these negotiations that go on with the ESP groups. We've got a contested election that's about to happen with your secretaries, but the teachers, we sit here in this room, and we've heard some of the comments even from your own administration that sometimes it gets a little contentious, and not so much between the teacher group and the administration. It's more between the two competing groups that are here. So it's sort of like that Tower of Babel. You've got too many voices sort of speaking in the room, and the process just works a lot more smoothly. And some districts, Festus has just recently adopted an HH policy that was kind of a creation of their own. They took the MSBA policy and modified it. But other big school districts like Columbia, Missouri, and Fox is considering an adopted HH policy as well. So lots of them are doing it. They find it just makes that process. And the Hillsboro School District has a long tradition of meet and confer with their teachers. So we would just hope that that would make that process much smoother. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Jennifer Richard and Kevin Blair in regard to the band. And I'll kind of give you a little watch sun when you're.
Hopefully I tried to get this down to 3 minutes. My name is Jennifer Richards, and I'm a proud parent of a Hillsboro student. He's a freshman this year. He's been with the school district since kindergarten. He's been in band since 6th grade. I hope everybody received an electronic copy of the PowerPoint presentation, had a chance to view the video, because I know when I watched the marching band last year, I got very emotional watching them perform, knowing the hard work and dedication that they put into the performance. They had their most successful year last year. So they were grand champions in 3 of the 5 competitions that they did. They got 1 first place, 1 second place, 1 6th place. In their classes, they got 3 first place trophies, a second place trophy, a third place trophy. And then there's 4 subcategories of the competitions. And in 2 of the competitions, O'Fallon and Seckman, they swept all 4 categories. It's color guard, percussion, music, and visual. Our color guard won first place out of all 5 competitions. The reason we're here tonight is because our band continues to grow. In 2013 to 14, we had 93 kids. 14 to 15, we had 85 kids. Last year we had 100, or this year we have 106 kids, and we're anticipating having between 115 to 128 kids next year. So because of that, the band needs some instruments in order to be able to perform next year, or we're going to have kids that will not have instruments. We're looking at approximately $70,000 total in instruments to be purchased. Part of that is a sound system. I don't know how old our sound system is, but I know.
We are currently 03, 04, so 12 years old roughly.
At our last year's performances, Mr. Hunt had to unplug plugs and plug other plugs in during the performance because there were not enough outlets. Last year, the boosters bought about $4,300 worth of instruments, and the boosters is still kind of new, so we're growing, trying to get the funds that the band needs to support the band. The other thing that we would like to propose for the board to think about is the band currently receives $5,000 a year, and that's for 6th through 12th grade.
5 is high school.
5 is high school. It's about
It was
$5,000 altogether.
5 last year, 4 this year.
I tried to do 5,000 last year.
Okay.
I believe I did 4.
So between 5 and 6 for 6 to 12.
I did some research and reached out to other schools and found out what kind of funds they receive. Found out that Farmington, and this is excluding travel funds, Farmington gets about $15,900 a year. Windsor gets $23,200 a year. Sullivan gets $15,000, Cape Central $8,000, and Fox gets $9,500 a year. Plus, they have a repair account at Nodelman Music that has endless funds. He couldn't give me a number on what he spends each year. Sullivan gets $15,000 a year, but they also have yearly requests to the board for instrument purchases on top of that. A lot of the schools have 2 sets of budgets where they get money from the co-curricular activities, and they also get money from the extracurricular activities. So what we would like to propose is that the board think about adding a fund from the extracurricular activities so that the band can get $5,000 from co-curricular and another $5,000 from the extracurricular.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sarah Saharsky.
Thank you for letting me speak tonight. And actually, what they just had to say carries into where I'd like to go. So after sitting through last month's board meeting, I left very concerned, and I've been concerned for many years about the future and the finances of this district. To hear Dr. Corman say that we had $120,000 essentially available for some capital projects and things here this year, you can go and look in the minutes. For the last 2 years, I've spoke at the tax rate hearings speaking about that we have a punch list of, if I recall off the top of my head, at least over $12 million that we paid an architect to tell us what our capital improvements needed to be. We have programs such as band, sports programs, reading teachers that we're trying to pay for, and no one's talking about that. And we have a lot of needs, and years have gone by. The taxpayers of this district have given you room in the levy to borrow for capital projects. But those recommendations have to come here and have to be shared with you all so that you can make good, sound, strategic decisions, and that's not happening. This is a $30 million plus business of the most important business in the community, which is educating our children. So I urge you to start talking about those things and ensure your leadership is sharing those with you. And I also am very concerned, and have asked for this before, so I will ask again, is that we should have a finance report every month. We should know where are we trending behind. Instead of somebody's project or something pops up and we're throwing dollars here or there, that we have a strategic plan. I spent hours and time, along with many other parents and community members, serving on a comprehensive school improvement plan. There's been no update, there's been no report. So all of those are only as good as our follow-through. So I urge you to start looking and not rely on a bond issue, but rather be strategically planning financially so that our kids of this district, and this is a good community, I moved here for a reason, because the people of this community want to support their children. But don't put the backs against the wall and wait till we're at the 11th hour. We've given you that opportunity, so those discussions need to happen, and our kids deserve the best. So I urge you to start taking that more seriously and having those discussions and start planning some workshops for some strategic planning about our finances. Thank you.
Thank you.
She knew she was next.
Taking bearing gifts again. Take one and pass it down. About, I don't know, 4 to 6 weeks ago, I sent some information to central office about reverse auctions. So I did want to share that information with the board as well. You know, as we're looking to purchase technology for our district, as we're looking for additional funds for our district, one of the things that I haven't seen in our policies is language around reverse auctions. So I did want to share with you that that is an option for us to use in practice to, one, drive the prices of the services and drive the prices of the goods that we're paying for day one. With a reverse auction, for those who are unfamiliar, vendors compete to obtain business from school districts. We put contracts out for bid. Usually it's a sealed bid, but with a reverse auction, it's done through an online marketplace or software. It is live. It is done through the internet. Vendors can see what our top dollar is that we're willing to pay for a product or service, and then the vendors come in and they undercut each other, and it drives that price down. We set the specs for what we want as far as technology or maintenance or anything that we're putting out to bid. With this opportunity, we have, with reverse auctions, we have the opportunity for cooperative bidding, where we partner with other school districts, and it really brings the leverage to our district. So if we know our surrounding districts are buying technology, and they're buying laptops, and they're buying tablets for their students, why not partner together and take that to bid with our vendors and drive that price down for our district and their district? A lot of these contracts can be awarded to the lowest bidder, or they can be awarded to a higher bidder based on different criteria that we would set up in the specs as well. In the packet, I wanted to share with you, Jordan School District saved $56,000 a year whenever they took their copy paper. Their copier paper, they took it out to bid and saved $56,000 a year by having the vendors compete against each other. So I did want to share that with you. There is a sample of an online marketplace by BidSync, not a vendor, not an online marketplace I'm recommending, just an example for you to view. There's many of them out there. The other one is there is sample language for our policy as well. Whenever I read over the policy for bidding, in our district, there is no language around reverse auctions. We talk about having online auctions and electronic auctions, but there's no specific language around reverse auctions or how we would use that in our district. So I did want to point that out to you, the sample policy. And then also in here, there are lots of articles of interest that I wanted to share with you where other school districts have used reverse auctions and seen significant savings in the prices they were paying, along with, just ways to save money in general, along with the different online marketplaces you can explore to use. The one thing I wanted to point out was St. Charles Community Unit School District. They took their copy of paper out to bid and they saved 12% against what they were currently paying for that school year. And the one that I liked the most was Lee Summit. They took their cost per gallon for gas out to bid, and they saved roughly 10 cents per gallon. And what they did there is they collaborated with 7 other school districts, a university, and a city to save those costs. So I just wanted to share that information. It may be an opportunity for us to take our limited budget and stretch it a little further.
Okay, thank you for sharing your ideas, your suggestions, and your concerns. All right, next item or action that we'll be taking has to do with the consent agenda to approve the items on the consent agenda. There is a note that The minutes from January 28 had a revision on it about the December 21st minutes. And had to do with, the other one, there was a second revision, had to do with the board members abstaining. I think we talked about that in the when we approved the agenda. So, any questions about the items on the consent agenda? The minutes, the financial report, attendance, activity accounts, CSIP review, the special ed program, the gifted program, the archery tournament.
I need to accept as presented.
As amended?
As amended, yes.
Okay, so moved, so Beth, and then John. Any discussion on those items, any of those items? Okay, let's have a show of hands to accept the consent agenda as amended. All in favor? Thank you. All right, so that gets us to reports. And we have a few reports this evening. We'll start with the superintendent's report first.
All right, thank you. There is quite a few things to go over this evening, so I will try to keep it short. I do want to first thank Mrs. Oshie, who did send some information to us with regard to bidding. We did share that information with Ray and Ray Bess, talked about that, as well as Mrs. Ginge. I also want to let her know that we do belong to a cooperative purchasing group, which is is Education Plus in St. Louis, that has about 40,000 students, I think, at last count, and buying power of several school districts, both in the city and the surrounding areas. So we are able to purchase things cooperatively through them and save taxpayers a considerable amount of money. So I thank her for bringing that forward. I also appreciate the comments that was brought by Mrs. Saharsky. Those are conversations we've been having as a district. In fact, we had a facilities meeting last Thursday to discuss some of these exact options. Mrs. Ginge and I visited about moving some money into Fund 4 so we can do more capital projects, and the board's visited, in fact, with me on several occasions, and we're trying to discuss how to move forward with the no tax levy increase, hopefully in April in 2017, and trying to get some things together for our public to take a look at. So I appreciate that from her. Also, if you would notice, in the consent agenda was our CSIP annual review, so I'd like to call your attention to that if you would like to read that. That's also online for your review. Okay, moving forward, I want to make note that our Meet the Candidate is scheduled 6:30 to 8:30 and will be held here in the boardroom March the 1st. So I know we have several candidates that have signed up that are in our crowd, as well as our incumbents. So please put that on your schedule. That is sponsored, I believe, by the NEA, and they will be hosting that for you. Also, similar to what Mr. Ward talked about, the secretarial staff decertification. Just put this in for your vote, or for your notice that there will be a vote on March the 10th when secretaries are looking to decertify, and that's overseen by the Board of Mediation, who will be here, and it will be, I guess, representative from the district will be Beth Johnston, checking in, checking out, checking IDs, things of that nature. One of the big things that has been a topic of discussion for several months is a school app, an application that is mobile phone ready, both Android and iPhone capabilities, that would allow the district to communicate real time with parents, send updates to their phones. We've been in discussions with a company called Apogee that's interested in giving us a very competitive quote on how to move forward with this. If it's something the district wants to really delve into, I'm more than happy to get an executive summary to you. This company, apps are ranging anywhere from $15,000 to $32,000 with Dr. Isaacs and I visiting with various groups. So as you can see, app development, their platform called ThrillShare, which allows continuous updates at one time to all media platforms. You're allowed 70,000, I believe, text messages within a year, as well as 70,000 voice calls, but you have unlimited push notifications and updates. So our parents can have updates to their phones rather than having to search websites, and it would be immediate. And what I like about the platform is that you can update all social media at one time, whether it's Twitter, Facebook, your website in one user-friendly format. You can assign user IDs where you can have building reps, which we have similar to what we use now when we do our messenger that goes out in the paper. We have building reps that send information to us that can also upload information about good news in the buildings. So we've talked about it, we've mentioned it, but if it's something the board would like to see more information on, I can write an executive summary to bring to you next month. So visit with me and let me know what your thoughts are on that. I do have a couple more updates other than the school app. The bridge closure, I sent a letter both to the Festus Special Road District, Ken Waller County Exec, and FEMA about our bridge closure that we have on Johnston Road. And we talked about it last month about the cost to the district. And one of the things that's hard to factor in is student wait time and what the cost is to that when you have students outside longer than normal waiting on the bus. So that's one thing that I wanted to bring you up to speed on. Also, we have an audit committee meeting that is scheduled for the 29th that we will need possibly to move. We're still working on some information that we don't have finalized yet. So we'll try to get some information to you if it will continue on the 29th. If not, we might need to move it. So if so, we'll be sure to give you plenty of notice. I think that is Director Petrie sits on that, and maybe Lisa Treat sit on that. So we will be sure to let you know if the 29th doesn't work, and we'll let you know by tomorrow. Also wanted to point out, one of the things we've been discussing as a board and administrative team was a board workshop. We were able to secure various venues, but we didn't want to spend a lot of money. One spot we found was over at Festus at the Pasta House. They have a back room that they allow groups to use, and I believe, Beth Ann, there was no fee associated with that. Not for the school, there's no fee for that. But I believe they want you to eat, so you just can't go and drink water, okay? So I was asked to throw that out there and determine if the board wanted to do a workshop where we can get together and set goals as a district and look, as similar to what Mrs. Saharsky said, long term, what do we want, the viability of the district, our fund for capital projects, just various conversations on what you want to do collectively as a group and where you see the vision of the district going. So that's another thing we need to try to set, and we can do that a little bit later on in this meeting. I want to give you another update. I know there's a lot in here, but I try to send home to you so much information to try to keep you updated, and I hate for it to be busy work, but it's important, I think, you stay on top of that. When we look at the new ESSA, when it was revised, Every Student Succeeds Act, one of the things that it's looking to do is curtail some of the student testing, but most importantly, give accountability back and local control to the school boards where you can make those decisions. So the state right now is not looking to make any major changes. They're waiting to see what's going to happen as this rolls out from the federal level. So just a small update there. As you scroll on down, one of the big issues, which I hope that we can avoid at all costs in our district, is similar to what's happening in Hazelwood. If you've been watching the news, some of the concerns about budget cuts, cutting programs. They had to cut $6.6 million from their budget. So as a district, that's one of these goal-setting things is where do we see our district going and how much do we want to put toward that event and those opportunities for kids. So please read through that if you have some time. Also included MSBA updates, what's going on with changes. If you read through there, you'll see that one of the bills that was going to remove summer school in the foundation formula has since been kind of pulled out. I'm not for sure what will happen with that bill and what ground it will make, but there's another one of concern, which basically is allowing debate on how the formula changes, including students being allowed to have a voucher program. And I think it's important that we have that conversation as a district because right now there's about 212,000 children who are not enrolled in public school but attend a homeschool situation. If each one of those students was allowed to draw 90% of the state adequacy target, now state adequacy target is what the state pays on your weighted ADA student attendance. If they get 90% of that, which is currently $6,110, they would get $5,499. Now, I want you to think about this. You're not getting any attendance on those kids, but yet you're sending money out the door to them. All right? Now, one of the things written here is they have to attend at least 100 days. And the key to that is because in September is when your count goes for your state aid, how many students are enrolled. But in the end of the year, your attendance is what gets you money. Now, the funny thing is, if they're only here 100 days and you're going 168 or 174, you've lost out from state aid on attendance, 74 days or 68 days respectively. So that's another thing that's very concerning, so we need to pay close attention to, as it would withdraw funds directly from the school district, and they would go to those individuals to use however they saw fit. So if 100% of that 212,000 kids get that money, that will be $1.4 billion reduction in state aid to public schools. If only 10%, that's $140 million away from public education. Now you need to wrap your mind around this. The state formula is already underfunded by $500 million. So they're going to take even more away from public schools. So again, that goes back to our conversation as a district. Where do we see this district going? How do we want to achieve those goals when there's a potential for continually dwindling the state aid? So as bills to watch, pay close attention to those. I try to modify them and keep them updated for you on a regular basis. They change, they drop. Again, you still see the Missouri State Fair is in there, where they want you to shut school down for a week in response to the Missouri State Fair. A lot of kids from rural areas take show animals up there, and I appreciate that. You know, as superintendent years ago in a small rural school, we had a lot of kids in the FFA, and they participated. But you waive that; it doesn't count against them. So there's a lot of movement on this. We're not for sure to what end. So please pay close attention to that. All right. One other thing I want to that's House Bill 1888. And it's introduced by the Republican from Baldwin. And again, that's called the Educational Savings Account. That's what we're talking about in relation to the voucher program. And there's one last thing I want to point out to you. Be sure you pay attention to our very bottom slide, which talks about upcoming events. What we're trying to do, Beth Ann and I, is keep you up to date on real-time information. We're also going to be sending you a Google Calendar, so please accept that. And what we're going to do is take your committee assignments when those committees are going to be meeting. I know traditionally we call you, or we send you an email, or we text you, and there's really kind of been a drop in that communication. So what we would like to do is start a Google Calendar that's shared. You will accept that, and then you can look and see what committee meetings are coming up, if something's rescheduled, board meetings, things of that nature. We'll be limited in the information we can share because all of you will be on it, and that will be considered a meeting. So a calendar to me is something that we can share with the general public. So what we're doing this evening is placing things right here in front of you, and hopefully we don't have to change a lot, but there will be a few changes to these meetings. So I hope I haven't talked too long. I kept it short.
Okay. I'll have to get the timer out. Okay. Next report, Mr. Best, Facility and Grounds.
Good evening, everyone. I will keep mine shorter. This is a real quick briefing. Just want to let you know on the status, which Steve probably will talk about a little bit. We have completed all the Chromebook installment this time with building the units he needed to house them. And we did get that all completed and in place, of course, with their help in getting that set. The other thing that I wanted to talk to, just kind of mention, we are foreseeing the beam sister issue with the alarm systems that we run into a lot in the intermediate. Again, fighting the same battle we've been fighting since 2010 almost. They have agreed again to come in tomorrow, and we're replacing the beam sensors one more time. Now, these are supposed to be all better systems, and hopefully that will keep all the headaches and interruptions that the intermediate personnel inquire every day of us, as well as we do throughout the night. So hopefully they will get that fixed. I expect electronics doing with all that. Hopefully that'll solve that issue totally tomorrow. We'll find out, keep you posted. Again, in the previous conversations, as we've seen, we have been meeting, we have our first meeting with the facilities committee for the 2016 school year, and we did have that on March the 17th last week, and the outcome was good. We still got some issues we do need to work on, as everybody knows. We are going to meet up again prior to the next board meeting, and we'll be presenting hopefully a review of what we think we need to look at. Okay, these will be some of the top priorities that we think we need to look at as a district. So we plan on having that report ready for you for next month. So, okay. Last but not least, I wanted to thank the board again one more time with our snow removal project we've been doing, which hasn't been a lot of snow, but we're glad. And we'll be happy to see the spring get here real soon. But these trucks that we have basically have been real impressive. These flatbeds and these plow systems. It's making it a lot easier. We've changed some programs this year and procedures. We're able to get the campus, I think, better shape quicker and making it safe for our students and our staff. So, and everything. So I want to thank the board again for that. So, all right. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Questions or might be right. All right. We thank you.
Please take note for sure. Okay, duly noted. Our technology report by Director Murray. Okay, he's going to sit in the corner and do his
Not
report.
hard to operate this if all that's good.
Okay, that's fine.
We had 123 work orders during the past month. Had 103 completed. That was as of last Wednesday, so those numbers, of course, are different. Technology committee meeting met on February 17th down at the junior high. We had a good meeting. Basically informed the committee of where we're currently at in terms of technology. And we had a brief brainstorming meeting session, on where some of the needs that committee members felt that we currently have. That's just the beginning of the process. We'll visit that process several more times. So we'll have another meeting probably here in another couple weeks or so. Working on campus wireless access, got that extended to transportation, so really good shape now, so I feel good about that. We are constantly doing tweaks, trying to make it better, so that's just an ongoing process. Time clocks have been all installed. We've got a couple that we've still got to get power to, but we're ready in plenty of time for July 1st implementation, so we're in very good shape on that one. We had an internet access interruption at the high school. This resulted from a network cable issue that we had at the high school where both ends got plugged into the network, and that's bad news. So we have implemented a protection now on the switches, so that should not be an issue going forward. So let's see, continuing on down, Chromebook process has went very well. We have 500 plus Chromebooks in place as of now. So really good shape on that. I took a picture of the organizers. You've heard us talk about it, but this is what the maintenance department built for us. They turned out very nice. And Ray mentioned how much money that saved the district. As I was looking, trying to find a solution for the Chromebooks, anything of this quality was $300-400 a piece. And we built these for about $25-30 a piece. And they will last, I promise you. I even questioned some of those I saw for $300 or $400, how long they would last. So special thanks to, let's see, where's the, Wayne and Tim Kazi with the maintenance department. They did majority of the work on those, so very much. High school has formed a group of Chromebook captains. I believe we've talked about that before. They've started meeting with individual departments, so we have lots of good things happening at the high school in regards to the Chromebooks. And I believe that's it.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have the facility usage report has to do with outside organizations or groups using the
It's just
facility.
a 6-month semi-annual report for you guys to see who has been using our facilities, what buildings are using it. There are some things on there that are marked as not paid, but we have had some payments come in since this was submitted. So if you guys have any questions on that, though, I can answer. But this is basically the report that the board asked for semi-annually for us.
Thank you, Mr. Marino. Any questions on those? Okay. And now we'll get to the project Lead the Way, and we can show the video during this. So, do you want to see the video first, or do you want to do it after?
Sure, you can see it first. That would be great.
Okay.
Yeah. This video is made by our radio and television class, and it's a promotional video and a thank you.
Ready? Sorry.
That's okay.
Project Lead the Way is the nation's leading provider of science, technology, engineering, and math programs.
Through world-class K-12 curriculum, high-quality teacher professional development, and outstanding partnerships, Project Lead the Way is helping students develop the skills needed to succeed in a global economy.
I would like to take some time to thank everybody involved for getting this program started here at Hillsboro. It is a really great program. It is a nationwide phenomenon. Everybody wants to be part of Project Lead the Way. I'm very fortunate to be part of it. So all those who are responsible for getting us up and running, thank you.
Thank you for letting me come tonight. I'm Sarah Dix. I'm one of the high school counselors, and I help coordinate the Project Lead the Way program at the high school. We just wanted to take a minute and highlight this program. We're in our second year of the program. We added a second strand of courses this year, so we have an engineering and a computer science software engineering, and the students have been really excited about school. It's a different type of learning. The Project Lead the Way classrooms are hands-on, and they attract a different kind of kids. And we're really seeing the fruits of that and seeing kids that haven't been excited about school. So we just wanted to thank you guys for making that possible and just bring some awareness to some of the great things that are going on at Hillsboro High School.
Thank you.
Any questions? All right. Thank you.
Okay, now we're going to have a report, a little presentation from our instructional coaches.
And as we get started with this, I'm just going to say a couple of things. One, I'd like to say something about Project Lead the Way, which we are going down into our other grade levels. And I'd like to thank our principals, because they're the ones that really get onto this and really are leading the charge with this. And so just attended a conference, and this is really one of the strongest pieces of curriculum that's out there right now that leads kids into science and into the understanding of math, engineering, and it's really an awesome curriculum, and we are working K through 12 to get that going. And so adding a class at the junior high with our gateway to technology there, so for next year. But anyway, it's an awesome program, and really great if you can see any of the things going on in the classes. Instructional coaches are going to be making the report for tonight, and I appreciate that. This is so that you will have an idea of what all goes on, scheduling, things like that, and there was a request from the board to bring a report to you, and we wanted to make sure, so they have put several things together and are ready to go, so I will put it in their capable hands.
Hi.
Hi.
Thanks for having us tonight. We're pretty excited about this because we're pretty passionate about what we do, and
like the opportunity that we get to share that with you. The page that I'm giving you there is just kind of an overview of everything that we do. And then I'm going to refer to this in just a minute whenever we talk. But Leanne's going to start out, I guess you know all of this. This is Leanne Kornman. Good evening. I'm Mary Libby, and this is Leslie Marchetti. So Leanne's going to start us off. Well, it's great to be with you this evening and share our instructional coach program. We're going to start off talking about our focused professional development. And I'm going to be speaking about the reading training. Mary's going to talk about assessment for learning. And then Leslie's going to talk about our STEM initiative and some additional instructional support and some curriculum revision and development. So, as you know, this year we have been implementing a new reading English language arts curriculum with our K-12, our new reading adoption. So we have had the textbook come last September and do training with our K-12 teachers, our Title I teachers, and our SPED. So after that, we've been giving ongoing support with our new materials. And we also have some annotation posters that we worked on last year in developing, and those we're seeking some accepting bids, and then hope to tentatively order that in March. So I'm really excited about that. Our English language arts teachers, the Title I teachers, the SPED teachers, so that's everyone that's utilizing the new materials. We've kind of divided those into groups, and we provide additional support with the teachers that way. And there's a schedule, it should be attached to your packet. It says coaching cycle. That is actually what we have established this year and have been following. It's just a way for us to get in classrooms, see how the teachers are transitioning with the new materials. It's set up on a 6-week cycle. So the first 3 weeks we go into classrooms and we get to do observations and see what components of the program the teachers are using, and then we have the week 4, 5, and 6 where we actually meet with those teachers and collaborate and either come in and model something with the program that they would like to see, or plan a lesson where we co-teach and do that together. So it's been very informative for us to see what is needed, if there's additional support that the teachers might need with the new program. And then also, we see a lot of things that we can share with teachers because they're in their classrooms, they're teaching, they don't get to go and see what each other are doing. So we're kind of helping bridge that gap for them with that. Let's see what else. And then after the coaching cycle, just recently we had the My Right Smart training, which is the digital platform of the series. And so teachers were able to have training on that. It was set up, train-the-trainer structure, so we had 1 or 2 teachers from each grade level actually attend that training, and then they'll take that information back to their grade level or their department and share it with them. So it was very, very good for them to see that too. One of the things we've been working on with the observations and seeing what the teachers are using with the reading, we got a lot of feedback from them on the writing structure, and so we've been developing some ways to help support that through the observations that we were able to see, and then also with just our ELA focus group, the structure that they decided would be appropriate. We want to see how that transitions across the grades because we want that consistency from kindergarten all the way to 12th grade. So we're actually working on that right now and hope in the next couple of months to deliver that to the teachers. So we'll probably go in either by grade level. I think we decided we would do it by grade level and provide that training for them. So that's kind of a walk through the whole year of where we are so far. The next column that you have on there is assessment for learning, and I know some of you are new and haven't been here for a while, so let me just give you a little overview of that. Assessment for learning was a district focus that we had in about 2013. And when we originally started that, there were some buildings that kind of started that on their own, and then the district decided they wanted it to be a focus. So then we developed training and trained teachers and teacher leaders to teach them the principles of assessment for learning. So as we went through that process, there was a goal in the end.
professional development is so much better when teachers have a choice. And so we finally wanted to get to that point, and we made it. We made it this year. We finally made it. It was really exciting. If you look on there, you can see the PD presentations that are on there. What we did was we sent out a survey, and we found out the topics that the teachers were interested in. And then we asked teachers, what do you know about these things? Would you be interested in presenting these things? And we put out applications for teachers to apply to lead the professional development. And we had a great response. Those teachers were paid for their time. Before school started, right in August, we had a training with all of those teachers to teach them about the adult learner, because the adult learner is way different than the student learner. And so we did some training with them, which I think they really appreciated. And we talked about presentation styles and things like that. So we got them ready to go. We developed a course catalog, which you have there. This page right here is our course catalog. So it was kind of like they were going to a workshop. They were able to look at this course catalog. They were able to pick the 5 courses. They got to choose 5 courses that they wanted to attend throughout the year. And they put that in my learning plan to set up and determine where they were going to go. The new teachers who didn't have assessment for learning training, they weren't as lucky. We kind of had to pick theirs for them. They had assessment for learning training on 3 occasions and then had 2 Google trainings, because Google was one of the big trainings, and we just moved over to the Google, and we felt like that was important. So everybody got to go. So far, the feedback that we've gotten, it's all been verbal. We meet with principals monthly. They can't say enough good things. Teachers are excited. Everybody seems to be receiving it really well. So our goal is to probably, hopefully, continue this next year. We will be sending out those surveys in March to find out and get feedback. How did it go? We'll get feedback from our presenters. We'll send them to our principals as well. And hopefully, from there, we'll move forward and maybe be able to offer a lot more next year. So it's been pretty exciting. Another thing that we've done with that is we've also presented lessons, but we don't present every time. So when we're not presenting, then we go watch other lessons. And then we're able to support the teachers in the classroom whenever they need help with those things that they're learning. So we go in after we're finished with anyone that wants us to, and kind of demonstrate what they've learned and do follow-up lessons. So far, I think it's been really successful. I'd be more than happy to share those survey results with you when we get them back and the feedback, so you can kind of see how it's going. And then Leslie's going to talk about, she'll piggyback off of the Project Lead the Way. This is another exciting thing.
It worked out perfect that we get to present right after Ms. Dix did, because it lends perfectly with what she was discussing. At the beginning of the school year, we had a couple teachers that had attended the STEM summer conference, and they were very excited about it, and then forwarded an email to us about a leadership series. Free for us to attend. We attended all of them except the last one, because it ended up being a snow day for us. But it was a great opportunity. We've gotten to network with a lot of school districts around finding out how they're implementing STEM in the classrooms, in their buildings, the initiatives that have been going on. Very exciting. We got to partner with different businesses around and find out all the supports and things that they can do within our school. STEM stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, Mathematics. I'm sure all of you know that. So it's great to hear all these different businesses find out the things that they can do for our school. On one of our last meetings, we were in breakout sessions, and we actually got to meet with some of the businesses and find out some free things that they do for the school districts. So we jumped right on it. We're super excited. I was actually able to meet with a junior high teacher, see if she was interested, and she was very excited. So actually on Monday, we're going to have from Sigma, Millie Poor Sigma, they come in and they do a science lesson. They're going to do science lessons all day with our 7th graders on water filtration. So it's a science lab. They bring all the materials, everything in. She just updated me today, so they're going to have 4 to 6 people from the business. They try to pick different people from different parts of the company, so not only will they meet chemists, but they may also meet someone in the business department, just to spark that interest. Super exciting, she told us that the one chemist said that she decided to be a chemist when she was in 3rd grade and had a chemist come to her classroom. And then another chemist that is coming was actually the teacher whose classroom was going to had her as a student. So she said she was a student of mine and an athlete, and now is coming back to present. So that'll be great to bring those community ties back. Then Ms. Luby was also able to set up one with Monsanto. It was the two partnership companies that we met with that day. And they are in the process of setting up something in the intermediate with our sixth grade teachers. And they're going to do the same kind of setup, and they'll get to go through all of the sixth grade classes. After we kind of see how these go, we're really excited. They act like we have time in the school year to spread it. Their focus age is at 5th to 8th grade, but they can go lower, and we'll go higher. So we're looking at that. They also offer free field trips where the kids can go, tour the building, see all the things that they do and do experiments there. So we're really working on finding all the things that we can offer throughout K-12 to get kids excited about all that's offered there. If you look past that, the other additional papers that we had, the next one is curriculum development and revision. Kind of gives you the timeline of what we've been working on this school year and will be continuing. We have already met with our health and PE team and worked on stage 1 of putting the curriculum in BYOC. We are going to meet with them later this month to go over stages 2 and 3, and then it kind of gives them a timeline where we are with them. They're also in the process of looking at some new materials, some textbook things that they need for the health department. Then we are going to meet with our practical arts curriculum this next week, March 1st and 2nd, and we'll start stages 1 with them, give them support the following day. Then we always meet up with the teachers, give support, meet with them, see if they need any additional help. We look through it, see if, how we can make sure it all goes through. On the next page, just gives you the timeline of instructional support of the other things that we do throughout the year that's just in continued support. We meet with our principals monthly, our meetings with Mrs. Rain, A-plus program, and you guys can read through all of the programs that we've done, the trainings that we give. And then, of course, at the bottom, we have Ames Web, all of our programs, and then teacher support. As Mary said, with the professional development, as Leanne said, with all of the things that we're doing with the reading training, we really have been excited to get to go into the classrooms. Just today I was in a classroom talking with the teacher about some Kagan strategies that I'm doing in our PD on Friday, and sharing what she's done in the room and what we can do to share with the other teachers. When we're doing the writing, we've been in there getting samples, sharing with us. So it's been a lot of fun. We've had a great year.
I know, I just heard really positives about the selection of classes in the full-day PD. So it's phenomenal.
Awesome. I hope we can continue it.
Because that's how staff learns best, is with others.
Very clever organization.
Yeah, lots of work.
It was, and to sit there and look at it and think, is it all gonna work, and it gets to that day, and you're like, oh, please.
Well, and I look good on paper, but that
And
doesn't
then you
mean
send out a
it
survey,
really
and by
works.
that survey monkey only takes the first 100 responses.
Really?
We got it.
But it all worked out.
It worked. So we know it. Go for it.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, ladies.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, those are all of our reports for the evening. We're going to move on to unfinished business. There are two policies, yes, that we need to kind of go back to tonight and talk about for a few minutes. They were both tabled. First one was policy IGDA, and the second one was JO. There were some attorney comments, so I hope that you've had a chance to look through those recommendations and read the comments, and I'll look or ask for any input from you as far as whether you agree, disagree, what you would like to do. Because some of these, I think, Derek, those were at your request, maybe? That was
This one,
JO, maybe.
yeah, this one was just making the change that we talked about in committee. But I mean, I think it's fine with it.
You think it's okay now? Okay. Anybody else have any Other concerns? I don't know, Beth, were you one that had a concern about this
Well, I just,
before?
it was the student-initiated groups, and my question was for Heath, actually. Wake up back there. Are there really any true student-initiated groups in the junior high?
Are there any student-initiated groups? Formally, we have some kids sitting around after school, and I think they call it fandom. That's the right word to use.
Well, but by this definition, isn't FCA one?
Yes, it would. As long as it's truly student-led without
Under
a staff
this policy,
member.
FCA would.
FCA, yeah. Kara's involved with that, is Ms. Joker's involved with FCA.
Well, for any
Well,
of our
if it's-
non-school sponsored activities, though, we have to have an adult who's willing to
Supervise,
be
but
present
not
in the.
actually
they're not the
initiate.
leaders of the-
Right.
I think the board's question was 7th and 8th grade.
Right.
Because the policy is 9 through 12. But because when you start getting lower in grade, you have to have people to actually be there to supervise, whereas you can't force them, but yet not allow outside entities to have that input to where they're supervising and getting excessively entangled in the school district. Which is, I think, is that how I read that, Derek? Is that?
I think so.
And that was the point of the lawyer's comment, is why they didn't include the 7th and 8th grade, was because it's, at that level, are they truly student-led, student-initiated?
Well,
versus at the high school?
we talked about this
there
example
are
briefly.
some.
I mean, even was it Reednar's building? When did they do the drama club? Was that?
They did last year.
But
Yeah.
that was, I mean, like Zoe started that in your building, right?
Fifth and sixth grade.
I mean, that was student
Right.
initiated.
So it's going down lower is what this is opening it up for. In fact,
I don't know.
striking
but
this
if
is
you-
not putting a limit on it.
Okay, right. But if you go
Correct.
back and look at the history of the changes, they were suggesting some changes due to, I think, some changes in law, but then they
Yes.
put in that grade limitation, which wasn't there before.
Right.
We had talked about just lowering it and
Right.
eventually
Now they're taking
eliminating
it out.
So, everybody feel more comfortable with the policy the way it reads now?
As long as the administrators do.
So I want to make sure we're clear, Beth Ann, make sure we're clear. So the board is leaving it 9-12, or
No.
we're taking 9-12 completely out
Accepting it.
totally?
Accepting it as presented. As presented, that is struck.
Struck it out.
It's struck out
Okay.
here on ours, and that was my question. So it's basically could be K through if
Right.
we had a really initiated kindergartner.
Okay,
Is
so
that
my
opening
question then is, do we
up
want to
the
pull it
problems?
from the table? No?
Is that?
Yeah, are we, I'm looking at 30 comments that says
Yeah.
they don't recommend the district
That's
take that
right.
out.
That's what,
Right? I'll make sure I'm
I
reading
mean,
that
that was
right.
my
Exactly.
initiate.
Because and that goes back to what you were saying, Director Petrie, that as you get younger, how can they determine, and they can't be alone by themselves, therefore you have to assign where teachers can't volunteer, and how is it actually student initiated?
Well, and that's what my question to Heath was. I realize the group is there, but, and the adult is supervising because of supervision, but are those, 7th and 8th graders actually taking charge, leading the meeting without really any interaction of adults?
And I'll read that very last sentence at the bottom of the comments. Because it says, even if the district does not allow, doesn't mean they can't do it.
Correct. They just do it.
That's what adults are doing. Okay, so,
So the recommendation from the lawyer comments was to leave it in. Right. Because the page 3, remove last 2 sentences, was that not our question to MSBA lawyers? And this was their response.
Yeah, our question was why did it specify 9-12?
Right.
Why was that spelled out the way it was? And that's our answer.
so I guess we've decided if we leave it or if we strike it.
Yes.
Is Is that the decision then? Okay, so
What was the motion on?
There's not.
there isn't one because it was tabled. I was gonna ask for a motion to pull it from the table to vote, but we need to decide what we want to vote on.
If we leave that wording in,
To
the
not
way,
strike it.
to not strike it, if we leave it, you're saying we're covered and the kids could still have their groups by what it says.
Yeah, paragraph 3 says, however, if the district wishes to extend the definition to include middle school students, there is some basis for that interpretation.
Okay, so we could still, if those groups want to meet, we're not saying they cannot meet, we're
Correct.
saying, so
Yes.
I just
They
want
have to
everybody to
have
be clear that they still
supervision.
get to do it. Because I do think we have 7th and 8th graders who initiate and lead groups, and
Right, I
I
think the
don't
whole
want to
purpose
see
of
them
that
left out.
is impressionable children that claim to have, and if you read the attorney comments, that claim to be a student initiated, but yet an outside entity is not controlling the group and using our facility to do so. That is why this is in there under equal access.
Yeah, because it obviously would cover it.
Yeah, but it goes on to say this policy wouldn't apply because KG does, which is
Right.
outside use of facilities.
So I'm going to make a motion to accept policy as presented by MSBA, leaving the language in.
To not strike.
Correct.
Okay. And Eric seconds that. Okay, so we have a motion to pull it from the table and vote on keeping the policy the way MSBA recommended and not strike those sentences. Any other discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Okay. The second policy that we need to discuss then is JO. That one have been tabled also. So we need to decide what we want to do, and this was.
Yeah, I finally got around to it.
Yes.
It wasn't until today, so I didn't get this thing out. And Steve, I didn't get an electronic copy. Remember, we looked at it last month and said, oh, this is kind of the same as it was before.
Right.
So what I tried to do when I, was to give us something to work from that I think got us closer to what we wanted. There was some repetitive language. Oh, by the way, what I gave you was, I just cut out the highlighted portion of JM. Because that was the only part that we were changing. So there was some repetitive language at the beginning. I think the first like 4 sentences were just the same 2 sentences repeated essentially. There was some concern about birth certificates, we can't require them. So I tried to address that. And then there was some concern about where the only one request may be made was located per year. And then if the student asked to make a change, there was no provision for, can they go back to, the previous, so I tried to address that.
So that last sentence says they can revert back to their original.
That's what I meant to say.
Right, I just want to make sure
If you read the leader, I had to file a suit against the county because I thought something said something I wrote, this doesn't say either, so.
We don't read the leader.
So you know what happens.
Okay, I still have a concern with first paragraph, the last sentence. All records will continue to reference the student's biological sex as indicated on the student's original birth certificate. So this is saying that if a student parent submits an amended birth certificate, because the state of Missouri does allow that the school district is not going to accept an amended birth certificate, only the original. And I don't see how we can do that.
Yeah, I didn't, and I'm okay with striking original.
Or add the word amended.
Yeah,
Or amended,
slash amended.
because
Original birth certificate, comma,
Original
amended
slash
birth certificate,
amended
comma,
birth
or related court document.
Right.
I mean, there's several ands slash ors, or take it out. I mean, there are several things you can do as a board. And I think it goes back to your contention that you don't have to actually physically have a birth certificate to enroll in public education.
Well, true, even though we do. But
We do.
Don't, yeah.
But that's for displaced individuals
Yeah,
or those
yeah.
who lost their homes due to flooding, they wouldn't
et
have.
cetera.
Right.
But the amendment also needs to be amended. Okay. Disregard the request to change the student's name.
Okay. So any other thoughts? I'll have to read a couple of those. Okay. The rest of it is basically the same, other than the red is what's new, correct?
Yeah, the red's what I changed versus what's,
Right, what was on
You
the.
just bumped it down.
just to try to address the comments that Secretary made.
Okay, any other changes, corrections, additions?
So let me ask, and Doc may have some better language there, but if where we had birth certificate up there, it says student's original birth certificate, would you could either put a comma and put amended birth certificate, comma, relevant court order, comma, or as attested to by parent guardian. Or you could say most current birth certificate would address either original or amended.
Maybe shorter, not less than. Okay.
So would you,
Leaving in the or as attested to, just put in.
that language is there to address the MSBA attorney's concern,
Right.
but we can't require it.
Okay, but we're just gonna change the wording, the most recent, instead of adding the other two separators.
About the amended or the, what did you say, court document?
The legal birth certificate, a legal court document, something of that nature would cover all the bases.
You could do most recent birth certificate, relevant court order, or as attested.
Court document, and then it
So
goes
instead of the
back
word
to the
original,
correct
we're going to put most recent, correct?
Yeah.
Most recent birth certificate, comma.
Relevant.
You want to put relevant court order? Or, okay. Okay.
And then comma
Or
for,
as attached to,
and that's the rest of the law.
So are they removing the amended birth certificate?
Yes.
you're taking out the word yes, we're not using
Yes, we're not
amended.
using amended. And we took out the word amended. So that sentence would basically read here on the end, that first paragraph, that as indicated on the student's most recent birth certificate, comma, relevant court order, is that what you said?
Order.
Comma, or as attested to by a parent/guardian at time of enrollment. Everybody good with the wording for that? Most recent is what I said. Because that would make it the most current as well. I mean, I don't, it matter. Okay. So all hearts clear on this one now.
Move to accept this as amended.
Okay. Beth was first. Did I hear you, Eric, as a second? To accept JO as amended.
Is that amended and put into effect? Is that amended, sent to MSBA? Is that,
I accept it as amended.
and be done with it? Tell them to write it.
Yeah.
When will it go into effect?
July 1st.
July 1st, same as
July
yesterday.
1st, okay?
So that's included in the motion. Okay. As amended, goes into effect July 1st. What was the other thing? Is that it?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Are you ready to vote then? I'm ready. All in favor? Raise your hand, please. I'm ready to do a happy dance on that. Okay. That's awesome. Very good. Okay, let's move to new business. We're going for a record tonight. Let's look at approval of bills. I need a motion to approve the bills for payment in the amount of $478,265.93 as presented.
So moved.
Beth, so moved. And Lisa, second. Any discussion? Questions, concerns? Everybody good? Okay, so let's vote. All in favor, show of hands. Very good.
We're trying to get that in a little better, I guess, a better format for searching. We're trying to give it to you in a format where you can just type in and search to see what's going on, who's getting what. So tell me if you have problems with that, okay?
Okay, so that gets us to letter B. We need to set a date for the calendar hearing. I need a motion to approve holding a calendar hearing. The date would be March 24th, 2016 at 5:30 p.m. before our regular meeting.
Second.
Beth and John. Oh, I didn't hear Rob. I already did that, John. Good. Any issues with that date? Everybody good? Okay, all in favor for the meeting to be on March 24th at 5:30? Very good. All right. Approval of MSBA and their full policy maintenance agreement. And there was a little bit of a change this time. We had a chance to read the agreement, look at all the information there. So I need a motion to approve the MSBA full policy maintenance agreement for $3,729. This is an increase of $292 over last year's cost.
So moved.
Beth?
Second.
Eric? trying to decide if that was wrong at that
It's
time.
probably the voice.
Yeah. All right, discussion. Any thoughts about this?
I just point out again that even though the agreement says that they wouldn't customize things, they have
They do.
been cooperative with us.
Yes, they
in
have.
that knowledge a couple months.
Which is awesome. It's very helpful. Okay, let's take a vote then. I don't feel like we have any more comments. To approve the policy maintenance agreement with MSBA. All in favor? Excellent. Okay. Moving on to budget adjustments. We have some amendments to our budget that were presented by Ms. Genge.
Can I
So
go ahead?
pardon?
Do you want me to go ahead and talk about them a little bit, or?
Should we do that before you discuss? Doesn't matter?
It doesn't really matter,
Okay.
but for procedural purposes, it's better having it.
Okay, look, hang on just a sec. So I have a motion, I need a motion to approve the FY16 budget amendments as presented. Thank you, Eric
Second.
and Beth. Okay, Kelly.
Sorry, I jumped the gun.
No, you're fine.
So it's that time of the year where we normally amend our preliminary budget, because our preliminary budget, there's a lot of numbers that they're not real firmed up yet. We based our tax revenue number on information we have from the assessor on assessments going up. When we got our post-Board of Equalization numbers in August, those assessed valuations didn't go up quite as much as we thought they would. There were some changes in different areas that we tried to track down where those changes were, but didn't go up. And then once we ran it through our tax levy calculator and we set our levy, we need to amend that number. So it went down a little bit, but the great news is we had some increases in our state assessed railroad and utility taxes, so it's offsetting that a little bit. Budget amendment also includes those numbers on state assessed railroad and utility, and then our financial institution tax, because those are buckets of money that we have received at this point. I've also made some changes on our surtax and our Medicaid numbers, because they're, I think, due to some timing on when we received money last year versus this year, those are going to be higher. On the expenditure side, we had to adjust for some additional hires that we did before the school year started for special ed, and then also to adjust for the tutoring changes that we made over the summer. So that went up a little bit, and the corresponding benefits and the salaries. Fuel, everybody's noticed gas prices, they're down, so I'm decreasing that fuel budget a little bit. Still sitting conservative. I anticipate to have a little bit more of a decrease later in the year as we get close to closing out. We have paid our property liability and workman's comp bill. We pay that every year in December, so we got final numbers on that. And we did get a credit from Missouri United Insurance, the School Insurance Council. They didn't anticipate a credit last year, but we did get one, so that's a good thing. So that number ended a little better. So overall, we're not estimating ending balances much different than before. They're a little higher than in my preliminary budget, only because we ended the year a little bit better. So that's the scheme.
That sounds positive. That's good.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
So even, and I picked up on slightly higher, even with the purchase of the trucks and the playground and the tutoring that we have done extra that weren't in the budget, we're still projecting.
Yeah, some of those
a little bit.
purchases, we moved money from other places to cover it, so that was already in our current adopted budget. But the tutoring, I did have to increase that salary, and then the corresponding benefits that go with it.
Because I just kept feeling like we were spending without.
We get pumped the brand.
Start throwing daggers at us, Kelly, yeah.
Just want to keep us in a good spot. So.
And I don't want you to have a heart attack.
Those are all the changes, you know, especially on revenue. that I have for this time.
So based on those increases, those little increases, it kind of helped to balance things out for us.
It did.
So we got lucky.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's good, though.
Yes, it is. Any other questions?
Yeah, just, and I know it's small, but in your executive summary,
Uh-huh.
it says that because of the adjustments, we're gonna be in slightly higher, but revenues we're taking down a little bit and expenses up a little bit, so what am I missing?
Slightly higher than my initial preliminary budget because I didn't have final numbers for where we ended last year. Last year's ending numbers were a little higher. Just higher than in my preliminary. But yeah, you're right, it is a slight,
It's small, I mean, but
right, decrease there.
Okay, so I need, we had a motion, right? And first and second. So I guess we're ready to vote. I need to see how you feel on this. So all in favor of approving the budget amendments as presented, raise your hand, please. Okay, thank you. Okay, next item is something that we have discussed as a board, but we want to take it to the next step, the application process for applying for grants. We had talked before about changing the way we did it a little bit, giving our administrators some pre-approval authority. Remember talking about that before? Okay. And we need to figure out what we want to do, where we want to go from here with this. The recommendation, I can find it, here it is. I didn't get down far enough. Is that this be a PIN form, correct?
Well, yes and no. When we
Okay.
change a policy from the superintendent's office, or if an employee has a concern, it's a PIN form. But the board has kind of already talked about this, so you already knew it was an issue or a need. So it's up to you if you want to consider this executive summary as the PIN form, or if you want it to be this first consideration as an informal item.
That's
And so do you want it to be your informal item and bring it back next month as your consideration to vote to approve? And the reason I'm asking is because if we go back to the policy committee, there's going to be grants coming available this spring that folks will want to write for that could delay that process. Or it's just up to the board. I guess so when you read that recommendation, it seems a little, you don't know what I'm asking because I don't know which direction you want to go.
Well, we can still have it as first consideration, right? And-
Yes.
And even if we decided to be first consideration, and second consideration would be the next time we need it,
Which is actually your first reading.
in March.
Correct.
Correct? But can't the policy committee look at it between now and then?
We can, yeah, I was
Instead
trying
of-
to get one
instead of
scheduled.
just
We have some
kinda-
new policies out there. We can
Okay.
throw it in if that's what y'all like to do.
I would say this is really, truly is some kind of a board level thing, and I don't know that we need to say.
Well, we probably don't need to, but when the policy committee is circumvented, that creates lots of issues that you ran into your first year.
Sure.
And so,
And it's not gonna take any time.
Yes,
Any-
I mean,
won't
it's
be
gonna be a
time change.
no-brainer, because, it's not a major issue, but why circumvent the policy committee? Because it's already established and all we need to do is make.
I don't know if it's changing.
But I understand your point. It's a board decision regarding you. What you're doing is you're taking the 100% and saying, okay, y'all bring it to us at the end rather than bring it to us at the beginning.
Right.
Because people, way grants come up, it could delay a month or two, and then therefore they can't run for it. So I understand both perspectives, but I don't think it's going to be a big issue either way for the committee or for the board, because it's good for teachers and good for kids.
That's right. And we've already discussed that this is what we want it to be done or handled. It's it's just a matter of what step we're gonna be on.
Do we have an idea of the language, I mean, on how it's gonna define which ones, I mean, if it has future strings attached, those are the ones that were, you know, the concern, and the ones that, you know, need to be looked at closer. So do we have a sample already, or?
No, I think the way this policy would read is if it commits any district funds, they can still write for it, but the board chooses to accept the grant or not. So anytime you're going to spend money, or anytime you elect to receive money, and I want to talk about, well, we can go with the playground that was just written. You know, they had to come to get approval to write it, when they could have just written for it and said, hey, we got awarded this grant, are you interested? Rather than having to come to you twice to get approval, which is in essence what had to happen.
Right.
Or that, you know, if we do the Archery School Grant Program, someone's going to have to come to you twice before they can ever write to get it approved. So, I mean, that was the whole purpose behind this, so just, we need some direction on the will.
I just want to skip the policy committee procedures.
Well, and by going to the policy committee, is it gonna slow things down
As long as we can have the committee meeting prior to the,
before the next board meeting?
you know, the second or third Thursday of the month when board packets due. And we gotta get all the policies from MSBA and get them out. We already have them out, right? Our new spring update.
You don't have to.
Yeah, but she's got it to the committee,
The
so.
committee members have it.
It's pretty close. But what will happen is, those will come to you as a first read, which will be the second consideration. Well, actually, no, it won't either, but then it'll be the first. Yes, so you're gonna have the policy committee, when they recommend this month, you won't be adopting those until May.
So we'll miss the spring.
So
But that's on the others, but this one we could.
But this one-
you can
Lisa was
speed
saying,
this one
consider
up.
this as the
After
first.
the committee meeting meets, you can go ahead and choose to adopt this one with
Adopt it
immediately, but I'll have to make sure, because it's not, and as I wrote it here, it's not a emergency type situation. So we don't want to circumvent that procedure, but it is available. I don't think it's an emergency, so we don't need to worry about it. So if we can meet and get this back to you in 2 weeks, you can vote on it. We got to meet in 2 weeks to get it back to you for the March board meeting, because that packet's due the
I see.
second
The
Thursday of the
17th.
month, or right about.
But you were planning.
I think I can do it,
I think you can.
as long as we can get them from MSBA and we'll figure something out.
We don't have.
Well, but you would let us know the date, because.
And I'll let you know if we can't do it. I mean, if we can't get them together and we
Who
can't
else
get
is
the
on that
committee together.
committee? Are you on that committee? Policy? You're not? Okay, so it's just the two of us?
I went to the last meeting, and I don't know that I was ever put on the committee.
Okay. Okay,
So no action needed on this.
okay. We're
But
just
I
gonna
want to make
accept it
clear,
as,
this is considered what level? An informal item, or is it considered the first read? Because if it's not considered the first read, you can't vote to approve it, but you don't really have anything to read.
I'm going to say.
I know, that's going to be the hard
So we
thing.
don't have a read.
So you don't have a read. You might delay it too much then.
Well, and so.
If it is, it is.
So be it.
If it is, it is.
I mean, you know, when something comes up, it needs to be.
we can make that exception. If that helps. Okay, so that would be the will of the board then, to have the meeting and the policy review committee. Okay. All right. The next item has to do with committee assignment. And I'm going to let you explain that one, the rationale of it again,
All
because
right.
we have so many committees
Yes.
within the district, and we have to differentiate between the groups. And you see that list at the end.
And typically,
on the
we like to get a motion before we discuss, but you don't know what the motion is, so I'm going to start with the discussion. Policy VCE, with its inception, is very clear as it relates to the Open Records Act, or the Sunshine Law. In the interest of transparency, our district wants to get as much information out there to the public so they understand what's going on, that they can attend meetings and events and activities But in the past, the district has never really assigned what committee is a board committee and what committee is an administrative committee. So, for an example, a board committee, if you read kind of at the bottom of that first page, reports directly to you. They bring information directly to you, and you take that information for a vote. Whereas other committees are administrative committees. Whereas it might be myself, Dr. Isaacs, and Mrs. Rain coming together, having a meeting to gather more information from the staff in order to make administrative decisions. So those committees are not actually board committees, as they don't directly come back to you for a motion. And we've listed them here. According to the Sunshine Law, anytime you deal with money or policy, it's open session. So you will post it in accordance to the Sunshine Law, give proper notice to the public, and if anyone has an interest in any one of these things, they can come and sit in and listen to what's going on, which is what we hope for. There are a couple of these under board committees that would be posted, but they are personnel related, or they are closed meetings, but they still will be posted in accordance with the Sunshine Law. When you read the administrative committees, those are things that report back to us. And then, if we need to, we bring it to you. But the committee does not recommend to you. So what we're saying is, we can hold these meetings when time allows. We don't have to worry about posting. The ones above are the ones that must be posted. Like the calendar committee meeting, we have a calendar, we post that meeting, or budget. That way people know in the public, and if they want to come in here, they have that opportunity to do so. So what we're asking is that you identify, yes, we are identifying these committees as board committees, and we're identifying these committees as administrative committees. That way everyone's clear, and we understand how to operate further. I guess that's easy.
Yes. So, the only ones that are starred here are
Yes.
basically negotiations.
Yes.
Okay, so those are really the only ones that report to us directly.
No. Those are the ones that,
According to the policy,
what it says, because it was a little confusing when I read it too. Those are the ones that report to us, but deal with matters that are closed session.
okay,
Employee related.
So that entire list at the top reports to the board. Those are all board committees that we
Okay.
posted.
which I had that in my mind until I heard your explanation.
Yeah, I know,
Well, I
I
might
get
have
confused.
been
And
fuzzy. I
then
apologize.
I
All of those report,
negated what
but
I
some of them are
thought.
closed. All of them will be posted. Some open, some closed. If they're closed, they have the asterisk beside.
Okay.
There should be 1, 2, 3, 4 of them, I think.
Okay.
Okay. So we need a motion then to identify and designate those committees.
And you can put as listed,
As
so
listed.
as listed would be fine, and we have the list.
Okay. Okay, so do I have the first, Beth?
Yeah.
Second?
Derek, good.
Any other discussion then? Everybody agree on, or is willing to vote on differentiating these committees? Okay, all in favor? Raise your hand, please. Very good, motion carried. Okay, next item has to do with approving the bid to replace the network fiber for the elementary and junior high. So I need a motion to approve the bid of Telewiring Incorporated to replace the network fiber for the junior high and elementary for the cost of $20,581. Thank you, Beth.
Second.
And John. Okay, any questions for Mr. Murray or discussion?
So this is part of next year's budget?
Yes.
This isn't part of the little pockets left?
There is nothing.
Okay, so everybody heard that, that's for next year's.
But this is part of our CSIP?
Yes.
Yes.
So that question is, we're saying that our CSIP is in action and
Right, and we want to point out, and I know someone asked this, so we're just going to tell you up front. When you look at the proposal, when we post, it's not necessarily the lowest, but it's could be the best. And there's a reason why number one is a little higher, but yet Mr. Murray is recommending that company. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Steve, talk to that for a second. please.
Sure. It was very clear on telewiring's expertise. Their proposal was just I's dotted, T's crossed. They even added a couple of items in there that they recommended that we have a tracing wire installed in the conduit, so we'd be able to trace where the conduit is underground, but we don't know the exact path. That was done, 17 years ago, so other vendors did not propose that. They also talked about coiling an extra 20 foot of fiber at each of the pull boxes, so if you had a break in the fiber, you would have enough fiber left to do a repair and not have to replace the fiber. So I really thought those two things stood out pretty big. And they were also the ones that did our fiber project last year, and it was flawless. So this will actually be their third job. They did the repair also. Back when we did the remodel at the intermediate, the conduit was broke behind the intermediate, and they did the repair on that conduit for us. So that we've had very good experience with them. So one last thing to add, just for a point of information, I am applying for E-rate funding on this, which is federal funds that could help us cover part of this cost. If we're approved, we should only be responsible for about $7-8 grand of this. So.
How long do you know?
I won't know funding on that till in June, but as Kelly and I discussed the other day, because of the conditions that we got to the point of last year at the high school and primary, even if we don't get approved, I strongly encourage the district to go ahead. So this is not the kind of thing you want to have to do in the middle of the school year. So.
Okay. Motion on the floor is to approve this bid from telewiring. All in favor? Very good. Okay, next item has to do with the approving a lease purchase of 300 Chromebooks for the intermediate. And this is different than the
Yes.
last
And the
set.
other.
Very much.
So
Want me to go ahead and address the board? Or?
Yeah,
Okay.
I have questions for you.
Sure. There's a couple of key points. Director Good asked that I put this together for the February board meeting. What this would allow us to do is to pretty much eliminate all of the Windows XP machines in the district, which is a necessary item at this stage. I don't know how many are aware, but I'll just give you an example. Java has already ended support for Windows XP. Google announced in November that they're ending support for their Chrome browser with Windows XP. It's just a matter of time before you have Adobe Flash follow, Adobe Shockwave. These are all things that we depend on pretty heavily in the classroom. So that's part of the reason. Also, if you recall, at our last meeting, we talked about how this would be very helpful during our testing process for the online state assessment. Began in April. As it stands right now, we will be pulling Chromebooks from the junior high and from the high school to complete our testing at the intermediate and the elementary. I asked Mr. Riedenauer that if we got him those 300 Chromebooks, would he be willing to give them up for 1 week of the year or a couple weeks to take care of the elementary, and he was more than happy to do that. So, but the plans will be for part of the intermediate machines to be moved down to the elementary. They have Windows 8.1 on them. The machines at the elementary are Windows XP, and they're not capable of handling Windows 8.1 or above. So there are multiple impacts from this. I do feel that this is something that could carry us forward until we have funds available that would help us perhaps move on to a one-to-one. I think all of us would agree we don't see that in the near future. It's something that we want to work towards. But this, I think, would really take care of us in grades, really K through 12. Maybe not as well as we'd like. There's no arguing that. But it is a good step to carry us through to maybe we get to the point of a bond issue or something.
Steve, you talked about some of the problems with XP. It's also a huge security risk at this
Oh, it
point.
is, it is. Microsoft's not doing any support on Windows XP. That ended, I believe it's almost a year and a half ago now. So there's no security updates coming out that help protect the OS and what it's doing. So it's something that really needs to occur. It really does.
How much is your budget normally? Because just from the Chromebooks last time.
I will say this.
We're up to $80,000.
This is different. Dr. Corman and I discussed this earlier today. I wasn't necessarily proposing this out of my budget. What I did in December, I did say out of my budget. That is not the case here. This is different. So
Kelly and I had an extensive conversation today and trying to determine financially how, where the district could move forward if this was feasible. Our good friends here at First State Community Bank, they're offering you 3 years at like 1.2% interest, and you're going to be paying $1,387.45 over 3 years for these Chromebooks. And to me, you can't beat that. Second, Kelly and I talked about, are there any other capital expenditures that we can wait on or postpone and purchase these outright? We discussed, we've got another issue with the baseball field. We kind of hit on that. I guess back last June, July, there was a budget of $150,000 for transportation to purchase 2 school buses. We had to dip into that a little bit after the flood damage. If you remember, we spent $7,000 of that money down. So there's $143,000 in that, which is not going to be enough to buy 2 brand new buses. Do we want to buy 1 brand new bus, reallocate that other $68,000, and see how it goes to the end of the year? Go ahead and approve this, and if you have those funds left over, you go ahead and pay that down, pay 2 years. I mean, there's some things we can do, but as far as having the cash and liquidity to pay for these without moving money around, you don't have it. $19,000 over 3 years, we could work on. But I don't think you could beat that interest rate.
I agree there. But really, we've committed over $60,000 for 3 years. Between the Chromebooks the 600.
what we proposed in
Over
December.
3 years plus this. We're committing $60,000 for
Correct.
Chromebooks for 3 years.
That is correct.
You're right. Some of that's coming out of his budget, but
Right.
this, he's asking to come out of your budget.
This will make a big difference in testing.
It'll make a huge difference.
The distance of XP machines on the network is a problem.
What does that do to us if we don't get 2 buses?
It's going to hurt us. I'm not going to tell you it's not. I mean, what I'm doing now is I'm having our new transportation director, Regina Phillips, talk to our mechanics about what buses are, how much money we're putting in those buses for repairs and maintenance, because we have a few that are older in the fleet. Maybe we look for $75,000 to buy 2 good used ones that have been turned in. It was nice if we could have ridden on that cooperative purchasing with Rockville when they just bought about 50 or 60 brand new buses, because they were getting them for about $60,000 each. You have a hard time touching a bus for less than 70. It's more 75 to 78 if you get a good quality bus like we have in our fleet now.
This is basically a bus or
That's right.
Won't first student be unloading some?
That's kind of what I thought as well. I don't know if they're going to reallocate them to other districts that use them. But we can put some feelers out. My point is, even for $143,000, you're going to be hard pressed to buy. You will not buy 2 brand new buses for $143,000. Unless they're mini buses.
So is this something that should be like tabled for a month until we have more information along those lines?
We can table it. I think the issue is ordering them now to get them in for usage during this cycle of map testing, we hope. If we wait till March to do it, I do not believe they will be here.
Which
I do not like the existence of XP machines on the network.
Worst case scenario, if you approve this tonight, you're committing to $19,000 next school year for Chromebooks, in addition to what Steve's already budgeted.
Right.
But that has already gone in his allocation, which you give him every year. So you're not making.
Just to give you a brief explanation on why I was able to do what I did in December, proposed that. You know, we've just recently bought some huge hardware expenses that going forward, I'm not going to have to worry about with my hardware budget.
Right.
So I was allocating that towards the Chromebooks for the high school. That's what that was about. So my annual budget for equipment is around 40, 50, varies from year to year, depending on what I'm buying, of course.
Okay, I understand we're going to have to make some tough financial decisions in the future, but this is something that's got to be done, in my opinion.
Well, we have the deaf educator though, that we're gonna talk about here in a few minutes. Those are different funds, correct?
Correct. You know, and that's, whether that's special ed, even if that need will be there, what that need will be, that's just letting you know that there's a good chance, high probability, we're gonna have that job. But we can talk about that in a minute, but yes, that is special ed.
Well, I just didn't want to confuse the two.
Correct.
that
Right. Yes, sir.
One prevents the other, more or less.
Exactly.
Okay.
And don't get me wrong, I don't want people to go out of here saying Doc wants to swap a bus for computers. What I want to say is, I don't know that you could, for that money, buy 2 brand new ones. And I don't know, you might be able to get 2 used ones, but I don't know what's going to be on the market. That's the hard thing. Hard thing to figure. I'm just giving you options.
How many Chromebooks does the intermediate have now?
We have a cart of 30 in the library. Well, technically, it's in the tech class right now.
And so all of the computer labs that are there, those computers are leaving, did you say?
Well, we won't move them all because Scott and I discussed that we're going to keep 1 lab of PCs, but the rest of them, for the most part, would be. And we're talking about a little different option in Tracy's classroom, which is the technology classroom. Everything she's doing right now is really focused on Google Docs and preparing the students for once they get to the junior high, and of course, eventually move on to the high school. She does not need the kind of machines that she has presently to get that done. They make what they call a Chromebox that's very affordable, similar, that operates like the Chromebooks, that would be very suitable. She's been using Chromebooks now, Mr. Reed, now how long? She started that just right after Christmas, wasn't it?
Yes, sir.
So she's been doing that.
The technology class?
Yeah, for almost a couple months now.
So her computers aren't in a room yet?
No, they are.
Oh, they are.
Chromebooks right now are sitting
She's
in
still
front
got
of
the
them.
computers.
To get them ready for the testing.
Right.
So,
Just getting the kids used to, she sees all the kids in about a week period.
about every 4 days.
Yeah. And so this has been a good opportunity to kind of get the kids used to them for use during the online math testing coming up in April.
So 300 Chromebooks would take care of like all the 5th grade for testing and
Yes, ma'am.
the others, and the 6th grade would use then, you just rotate?
Correct, yes, ma'am.
And, because you have 3 computer labs.
3 and,
Two full labs, one in the library.
we have 2 full labs plus in the sites rooms. We have 3 full labs and then a small lab.
In the library.
Yes, ma'am.
And those are the computers you're talking about, sending some of them down to the elementary.
Yeah, and then, of course, we're talking about the PCs in the classroom because they would have Chromebooks in the classroom for use there. So those would be going down as well.
Teachers would not, they would still have their.
Yeah, they'll still
PCs.
have one. We're actually fixing to upgrade those machines out of our budget to have them with new machines, and those would be going down to the elementary as well. I don't know how soon that will be, but sometime in the coming weeks.
And if it's not good to have them up here, I mean, if you're gonna have issues in the, using those in the intermediate, you're gonna have those same issues down in the.
No, they have Windows 8.1 on them. So the idea is to move them down to the elementary, so the elementary has machines that aren't Windows XP based.
Okay. Now
That's
I
what
get
that's
it.
about.
All right, because I'm like, sorry.
The elementary machines are the ones that really need to be replaced bad. The ones at
And
the
that's why
primary
there's-
and the
okay.
intermediate, they both are running either Windows 7 or Windows 8.1. They're good enough machines to handle that. The machines at the elementary are not.
Okay.
Well, and I don't think the question at all is the need or desire, but I was concerned when 11% balances, right?
Sure.
11% balances is getting a little bit challenging.
Oh, it's
I mean,
terrible. I mean, you had it, we heard it with them tonight. I mean, it's sickening. We go, and it's, we want to do everything.
Right.
And we always do everything, but you can't.
Right.
I mean,
I mean,
we sat in this
11%.
meeting last week, oh, you got 140,000, you got 120,000, you got 80,000, you have nothing. We're not going to do nothing in facilities. Okay.
Well, and I
We got
know
11%, but we're still going to.
other school districts that when they get to 15% balances, they start meeting of the minds and, you know,
Sure.
putting a skid on some of the spending, and so that is the concern.
There's no doubt.
11% balances is not pleasant. In the old days, it used to be okay, but not anymore. With funding, so roller coastery. So need versus balance. Need one versus balance. Input, anybody on balances.
Yeah.
That worries me.
Scary.
So,
I mean, there's no doubt, like I said, we've got some tough choices to make. And they're gonna have to be made, and they're gonna have to be addressed.
So do we spend before we make those choices?
I think you have to. I think
it's
I'm
the
appalled
opposite.
at the fact that we have XP machines still on the network when and yet we're locked down where I can't get on I can't use the Wi-Fi to access my, and Steve and I, we've talked about that, and I understand why that's there, but you don't understand the risk that we have network-wide because those XP machines are there. They need to be taken off that network. And you know, this is how we do it, it's how we do it.
So what do we sacrifice for that?
I think the bus plan, we look for a couple used ones instead of new ones. You know, maybe Student First has to, since they lost Rockwood, maybe they've got some buses they'll have up. We're just gonna have to look.
I just don't, I mean, you know, we've talked about it, with what we do now is gonna affect later, and we know what happened previous to us that we're paying for now, and a
Right.
lot of things, especially financially. So,
And that's a big help.
I don't think anybody really cares about the previous, but we do now, you know.
How do we provide the kids with the proper instruction with 10-year-old computers?
Well, I agree with, hey, I'll sign up right, I'll vote right now. We get down to what, 8%, or what do we do? You know, I don't know. I mean, that's a workshop thing we were talking about, we need to discuss, and we've been talking about it, but.
That's kind of an ongoing thing here, you know, there's no, I don't want to say there's no forward thinking, but there's no forward thinking. Like you said, all this checklist that we have for facilities, why haven't previous boards looked at that and said, okay, we need to budget for this? Computers, well, we've got experience, why didn't we budget for this in the past? So we're not sitting here thinking,
Why are we so far
what
behind?
the heck am I gonna do, you know, this or this? I mean, my God, that's one of the biggest issues we need to come up with and figure out. How do we budget for this stuff? Not how do we budget, but we need to budget for this stuff. We need to budget for these changes. I mean, technology, how often does it change, Steve? Every 3 years, you know? I mean, we're gonna get these Chromebooks gonna be obsolete in 5 months, you know?
That's an understatement.
I mean, you know, we've got to come up with something and not sit here at the last minute thinking, oh God, what are we gonna do now? What are we gonna do now? You know, we've got a baseball field that is unsafe. We've got a football field that needs, issues. We've got a high school that needs to be sealed.
Band jerseys.
There you go.
Uniforms.
I mean,
Sorry.
we can't fly by the seat of our pants. We've got to come up with something and something that works overall. And I mean, I'm just sitting here looking at this and, yeah.
But we're here every board meeting till 11 PM, working on things that have been put off for so long, and not getting to the stuff that we need to be doing that.
Well, and I keep thinking when you said that Chromebooks lifetime is 3 to 5 years. And, so this is, an ongoing expense. There should be a certain amount every year, set aside for replacements, et cetera, but.
That's the road we'll need to cross when we try to go to one-on-one.
Yeah.
That's definite. What we're proposing with this is to carry us forward for 3 to 4 years until hopefully finances are a little better to maybe take that next step. We might not be able to. But at least this eliminates a concern that exists right now. I mean, there's no easy answers. There's no arguing that. My biggest fear is, and I can't predict this, it's impossible, but when is flash updates going to come out that we're not going to be able to use on those machines anymore? And I think Ms. Hildebrand will be the first to tell you we're rather dependent on online resources that are flash-based.
Oh, sure.
I mean, that's just the start of it. And that's the, and that's kind of what Mr. Good is pointing to, just the security side of it. That's why they're ending support because Microsoft already has. They've already abandoned the product. So it's just a matter of time before the others fall suit, unfortunately.
Basically, we're looking at trading, giving up a bus for computers.
If you want to pay for them outright, yes. But I'm telling you,
I take the finance agreement, the 1.1.
if you're going to do anything tonight, that is the thing I would do.
There's no prepayment penalty, I assume, in it?
No prepayment penalty that I read, Steve.
Mr. Francis, you still here?
Yes, I'm here. Any prepayment penalty on that?
I purchased it, entered the finance agreement, start scheduling some meetings so we can start looking at what we're going to do.
Give us some property.
Yeah, we got to pay for it first.
Let's call
Okay. We don't have a motion on the floor
No.
to what?
Oh, we gotta do that though.
You have to decide what you do.
What is
Well,
your
let's make it
motion?
to approve. I mean, let's vote that. We have to make it to approve thank you, the lease purchase for the 300 Chromebooks for $59,775.
So that was the recommendation or the request to approve 300 Chromebooks by lease, right? And so Eric made the motion. Is there a second? Derek? Gosh, this is a toughie. Okay, any other discussion? Some visions of the kids not being able to go to school because they're carrying a Chromebook.
We can always go to desk maneuver and give them a
You're retired.
I can just pick them up, is that what you're saying? I'm gonna start a bus.
We want this one both ways. They can't do
Two
right.
retirees right here.
What?
Just by big vans.
Yeah.
Hello, drive?
My teacher's retired.
Nice.
At the grocery store, you get home.
Okay,
I don't have my chauffeur's
so,
license.
do you have answers? Are you ready to vote?
All right.
Do we need, I guess it's if it passes. Okay, all in favor? Put your hands up. Gosh. Can I do a half a vote?
What's salt's good? I've never been, what's salt?
How about if they can't get to school?
But good at Chromebooks, right?
I mean, it's still got, we still got something.
It's
there.
just,
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
so do we need to talk about the bus then?
No, because that's not even been put out to bid, it's
No.
not.
Okay.
Good.
But that's, is
I've
that
already
where the
talked to
money's
them
gonna
about
come
it.
from?
Well, no, because
So now we have to
you voted on them
decide.
outright, so we
No.
might be able to buy a
You and
couple
Alicia.
used, or one
And
new,
thank you,
one
Rick
used.
Francis, for
We're gonna-
first.
But we have to
What do we
decide where this this almost $20,000 is gonna come from.
But it's not until, when is the first time, July?
July 15th.
July 15th.
So we all.
So that's on
put
next
in.
year's budget.
Everybody's sitting.
So every board meeting, we're gonna have a hat at the door so people can we do a raffle when they come in? Technology,
We'll have a
computer,
bake sale.
a bake sale. Wow.
Cookie dough.
Cookie dough. We'll put you in charge of it
That
because
would
you
be
are so
the-
good at it.
The end all. Thought I got it. Okay.
Well, I know, but
Gosh, that was
all the
painful.
teaching ones are gonna be
No matter what you decide, or who votes what, we're gonna be, whatever it's gonna be.
I don't know.
But they gotta have computers.
Okay, so the next recommendation is to approve the addition of a deaf education teacher position. And here again, this is something we have to have.
Well, we're projecting we're gonna have to have. You don't know if the student will move out,
Right.
what will happen.
And
We're
this
just
is for
saying that
next
the needs
year.
there, this is for next year. We have it at part-time now.
Okay. We have it as part-time now?
We have that individual working at part-time.
So we're just saying, we want you to include this in next year's budget.
Yes, sir. If the need is there, you have the permission to hire us.
That's an if, doesn't
If
necessarily
needed.
mean it will be.
Yeah,
Well, the
You're not-
open
no, you're
line
not
says the
budget
district
for
needs
it.
to hire a deaf educator, teacher. I mean, so we see the need right now.
You're
We're
gonna have to budget
projecting the
for it.
need to be there. We're telling you we're going to have to budget. for it.
Right. And did I not hear at one point this position could be a shared position?
Yes, there's some discussion on how much time the individual student will need, and you have the option of sharing that service with other districts if they have a need, and then compensating you back for having the employee, if that makes sense.
All right, so I need a motion to approve the addition of a deaf education teacher position for next year.
16, 17 schools.
Okay. For the 2016 and 17. Thank you, Beth.
why do we, in my mind, wouldn't it just be something you include in the budget, and we approve the budget? Why do we, I mean, is it just to
Well,
give you more
basically, you're
direction?
creating a position.
New position.
You're creating a new position, which the board has to approve the creation of the position.
But I thought you said we had a part-time position.
Mrs. Raymond, want to speak to that?
Right, we have a person right now that is teaching in that capacity as a retired person coming in and doing that for us, and is not going to be able to do that. That is a very difficult position to fill, so the real thought behind this right now is to be able to advertise and to see what type of, people we get to fill that position, because we have advertised all year and have not been able to get anyone. If we can, we would also look to have that person certified in some other area of special education and utilize that person in other capacities. So we'll definitely be looking in that area as well as if we could contract out the person. You can do that oftentimes, and you just never know if other districts may have a need for a teacher. So,
Okay.
And a couple people who retired.
Okay. So
Not in
we
your
did have a
plan,
motion with
but-
one person to make the motion, or we don't have a second for it though. Joe? Okay. Any other discussion to approve this motion, this addition? All in favor? Okay, thank you. last item is a discussion about the employee separation incentive plan. So I don't know who's doing the presentation
I
on
think,
that?
well,
John or?
John and I both, we've worked on this with Kelly and input from Jana, trying to determine, for the past 3 years, each year that both teacher groups come to the board or to the bargaining table and want an incentive plan for an early separation agreement for our veteran staff. And in years past, we had the master teacher plan that kind of went by the wayside due to some legalities with the teacher retirement system. And so we've been doing some research and have something in front of you that we sent out in the 48-hour update. Currently, we have 2 letters of resignation in hand, and we have a verbal commitment of resignation. And if we were to replace those positions, what we call lane and row or step 5, masters plus 5 years experience, the savings for those positions is $64,465. So that's savings to the district. Now, when you couple that with those assumptions that you see listed there in front of you, that does not include any early separation incentive plan. Now, when you read on down, John got a survey together, Dr. Isaacson, sent that out, and we had 4 certified staff say that they would really be interested in accepting it, and 1 said that they would likely accept it, and 2 said they were unsure until they consulted the retirement system. They didn't know if they would be able to retire. We had 1 classified staff said they were definitely interested, and 2 more say, hey, I need to consult the retirement system first. So as you read down through there, our thought was, is there something we can do that would be beneficial to the district monetarily, financially, as well as be a boost to the morale of our staff? For some staff members, that's a plus to them to have the opportunity to retire early. Some of the things we kicked around was, well, do we do 1 year of insurance, 2 years of insurance? What do we do? So we looked at that $6,000 assumption of what we pay insurance on a staff member and multiply that times 2. So we wanted to determine what is our actual savings going to be as best we can guess or estimate, and how many people would be interested in accepting the incentive plan. Because what we don't want to do is, if we know right now 4 people have expressed interest to retire, or 3 people, excuse me, you multiply that times 12 over 2 years is $36,000. You subtract that, you're not, right now, your savings, you could hire a teacher with $64,000 and pay benefits. So what we didn't want to do is go too far back the other way. Kind of run some mathematical analysis to determine what's best, because what you have to understand is this savings is projected over 2 years. All right, because we're paying insurance for 2 years. Whatever you get, you're going to double, because that'll be the savings next year. Try to determine where you're going to be. So if we looked at that, the assumption is $147,000 in savings. You multiply it times 2, your potential is, Doc, what was that, 280, 290? You're looking at potential savings if you offer an early separation incentive plan. Now, before the board moves forward with that, my belief is that you have to say, at a minimum, 4 certified staff members have to participate. And the reason I say that is because you're not going to be dialing down to 36. You're going to be recouping more that $60,000, $75,000 mark, where you can reinvest that in your staff, hire new people without paying out more money, different things you can do, or look to do something different with the way your finances are now. There's a lot of options open to you. We've spent, how long? A month and a half, Kelly, John, a lot of time trying to determine what's best economically for the district, but yet still bolster staff morale. And we're at that. If you decide to do this, it has to be 4 people. We've had commitments from, I don't want to say commitments, we've had interest from 13 staff members. So that's where we're kind of getting our figures of that 147 savings. And again, if you look at those assumptions, that is if we're replacing people without attrition, which means we're going to replace them. These aren't positions that we can not replace. We have to. All right, so those positions will be filled, and the assumption that they're going to be master's degrees plus 5 years. You could replace with someone that comes in that's a top candidate that doesn't have a master's degree, you'll have more savings. Or you have a specialized position that requires someone to have a specialist degree, which is going to be higher on the salary scale, and the savings wouldn't be actualized as much. But this is I hate to use the word best guess, John, Kelly, what do you think? This is our best estimate of where we think it'll come in at. There are some figures that are trending a little higher than that. Dr. Isaacson's been tweaking on those numbers over there, trying to really get them hard down. John, you want to speak to that just for a little bit?
Yeah, I can, to really kind of look at what our authentic savings would be when you add in the retirement and such, and just some different scenarios. And the assumption is everybody that said, hey, I'm interested, would ultimately end up retiring. But a situation of a 5% increase in insurance in our costs, and then adding $500 to the base plus giving a step to those teachers, the actualized savings first year 158,843, second year 139,361, for a net of 298. If we had a 7% increase, it would go to 286,741 in insurance with those same options.
And that's including individuals that are taking the ESIP plan.
Yeah, that's with dialing in, paying for their
all that
insurance
figured in.
and all of that. A 3% increase in insurance costs would a savings of 162 the first year, 147 the second year. So 309. So I mean, it's kind of fluid within what our insurance does, but looking at insurance costs going up, because we're going to have to be on the hook for that. So, but that's assuming it's going to fall somewhere within that line of a maximum. But we need at least 4 teachers to go for sure.
But that number is based off of 13?
Yes. His numbers are based on 13.
That's the high, and it would be somewhere in between there. But we have to have 4 or 5, which I feel confident in that. Otherwise, we wouldn't even talk about it.
And you do think it's a good morale? This is something that's really wanted and...
I really believe so. I mean, for 3 years, our teachers have asked for it, and we've said, hey, we can't do it, we can't do it. And now that we're trying to work out a plan that might work, yes, I think it bolsters morale, those veteran staff members that, those 25, 26, 25 and out, and those that are on the cusp of 30 years of experience. Yeah, I think, sure, that's going to excite them. There are some people that are wanting to take it that I don't know that are fully vested yet, but that's not up to us to worry about. They'll have to work that out with the retirement system themselves. So we gave to you the ESIP, I call it the ESIP because it's just quicker to say. We sent that home to you. There are some parameters if you looked over that. This is a one-time, and we made it very clear to our staff. Right, John, we sent out that survey that said we're not going to look at this again for another 2 to 3 years minimum. 18, 19 might be the first year we will start thinking about it. And then it lists some of the requirements under the retirement system, and then there's an agreement that they would sign, and then an agreement that the board would sign. I want to be clear that doesn't mean that that if you look at, it's not a page, the actual agreement itself, it tells you that it's paid out over a 2-year period, which is important. We don't want people thinking they're getting $12,000 to spend on insurance right up front. It's paid over 2 years, not over 1. And here's the thing, and this is important, that it will be classified as an early separation agreement, not an early retirement incentive, because that would be age discrimination, and we're not going to go down that road. So if anyone talks about it in the public, please refer to it as an early separation agreement. Because ultimately, you can't force people to retire. They might leave here and have 30 and get hired to work somewhere else and have 31 years. I mean, so that's on them to deal with. Did I cover everything? John, anything you want to add?
No, I mean, the thing is for some employees, I think it's very exciting to them, if they're close to they're working here their entire career, it's kind of a win-win. But, we can't do it. If you do it every year, then it's not cost effective because individuals are retiring anyhow. So that's, I guess if there's a negative to that is, if you're on that 3-year cusp,
Yeah.
somebody, that is kind of a negative thing, like, oh, I'm missing it by a year, and I'd have to work an additional year to receive it. I mean, that's unfortunate.
And let me say,
Yeah, that's our hope, yes, because one step's $250,000 for a step, for certified, and that's the conversation. People don't realize it's not just for your teachers that get a pay increase, it's your support staff. It's $250,000. So our hope is that we can continue to, we're looking at for everything, from insurance, everything's on the table for discussion of how we can cut costs. And the conversations we've been having, we've met with 7 or 8 different insurance carriers, trying to cut those costs while still encouraging employees to come to Hillsboro, prospective employees.
I guess the concern I would have is, isn't our first renewal that's come back, like a 12% increase?
Yes, and we're not.
And those numbers were like 3 and 6. So we have to make sure.
Well, the first one was a 7. And I think that's a realistic place. We've got, I think, from some of the people they've talked to and some of the options that are out there.
Big discussion on that right now. We're looking at March either 14th or 21st. We're going to have a lot of, our insurance committee will be meeting and going over some of those insurance things. But ultimately, here's the thing, it's a now or we're not going to do it. Because looking at the time constraint, you got to give 45 days for employees to decide by law if they want it. So if you don't vote on it tonight, there's no sense of doing it this year because it's not going to be a benefit to you.
I've lost sleep over this. I spent 2 hours with John on the phone yesterday because coming from a teacher negotiator myself, we asked for it a lot. But then being in this position, I also know we're dangling the carrot out there, and we're losing quality people probably earlier, which is a disservice to our kids. And retirement system, has that extra factor to encourage that 31. So this is kind of at odds with the factor for somebody who stays 31 years. So I go back and forth. I do appreciate the fact that this does include classified and support staff, which often retirement incentives don't, or early separation agreements don't, because they are very, very valuable as well. So this is, for me, hard, because we're swapping, savings of money, yes, but those are experienced teachers at 27, 28. We see that with Gianna. She's not being replaced with just one person. And those teachers work into those spots too, so.
And I agree 100%. And I think, but it's up to that veteran teacher
Yes,
to decide.
I think,
And it's a
Because
choice
those that
there.
want to stay, they're going to stay.
right, it's a personal decision,
yes.
and when you're ready to go, you're ready to go. And no matter what is dangled or isn't dangled, you're gonna go. And that's the bottom line. When
Right.
somebody's ready to retire, they're gonna retire. Whether there's an incentive there or not. I agree.
Okay. We need to, I guess, decide if we want to make a motion.
I move we accept the program as presented.
With a minimum of,
With a minimum of 4, presented that way.
yes.
For certified staff or for people? Because that, it has to be certificated, because that's where your savings is gonna come. You don't want to bump that up 5.
I wanted to, but
We've got to have
I'm
5.
trying to be realistic.
Okay. So we have, pardon me?
Who was the second?
Lisa.
Thank you.
We have the motion on the floor to accept as presented with a minimum of 4 certified staff members. Correct? Okay. Any more discussion? Are you ready to vote? All in favor? Very good. Carried. Yes, that's a good thing. Okay, wow, we finished the new business, and it's only 9:30. Okay, so I need a motion to adjourn and recess.
Recess and reconvene.
And then reconvene in.
Second.
Who said first?
Beth,
Beth and then Rob.
Rob got the second. You got that one in there quick.
Okay, all in favor, raise your hand, please.